Hello, and thank you for your interest in Wheeler's ePlatform. Today's session is designed to give you an overview of ePlatform from a student's perspective, and will include looking at how you browse for books, how you borrow a book, and how you interact with the book and the customizable settings within the ebooks. My name is James Richmond. I'm one of the UK account managers for Wheeler's ePlatform. Wheeler's Books is the company who are behind Wheeler's ePlatform. They are a company based out of Auckland in New Zealand. And we have offices in Sydney, in Australia, in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia, and also here in Gloucestershire in the UK. What we're going to be looking at today is our ePlatform 1 shared collection for secondary schools here in the UK. So the books you'll see will have a UK focus to them, and a demographic of ages from sort of 10 years up to young adult. What we're looking at now on screen is the library homepage. This library homepage is the first page that every user will come to when they launch, either through the website, which we're looking at here, or through our mobile app, which is free to download and available from the App Store, the Google Play Store, and the Microsoft Store. So available in all the major app stores. This page is fully customizable, and as an administrator, you would have the ability to change the color schemes. You would be able to change the displays here. So whilst it's defaulting to showing our preset compilations of popular titles, latest editions, and new and recent releases, it's quite nice that you're able to put your own stamp on things, and you can highlight popular books that are available within the digital library. You can highlight popular or alternatives to popular authors, or you can highlight books that are around a themed event that's happening within school. Each school gets their own unique website address, which is linked to the school name. And as standard on setup, we include the school logo here rather than the banner that you're seeing here, which is set up as our demonstration site. Where we start to find books is through the browse screen here. So we can either just browse through the pages. As you can see here, the sort is automatically showing the most popular books towards the top, but we can change that to show new releases, recently added, or alphabetical if we prefer. One thing worth highlighting here is there are 2,350 unique titles that are available. That is a mixture of both our ebook and audiobook catalogue. And as a very quick way of being able to tell the difference as you're looking through the screen here, audiobooks have the headphone symbol, whereas ebooks don't have the headphone symbol. On the left-hand side are a series of menus. And as we scroll down through here, we can choose to look at books that have an audience target. You can search for books via category. You can choose to show just ebook or just audiobook files. And you can search via accelerated reader book level. So there are lots of ways to find books that you want to read that are applicable to your preference or your reading ability. By choosing one of the tick boxes, a sub-menu opens up and it allows us to filter down through the list to find books that we want to read. We use the primary category that's been assigned to the book by the publisher. And so if we choose adventure and thriller style books, we're left with a list of just 74 books that have been assigned by the publisher with an adventure thriller primary category. So we've narrowed down the search. Unsurprisingly, Harry Potter appears towards the top of the page, as it will do on most of these search pages. But what you'll notice from the current display is that there's a very clean white background and a very highlighted book jacket, designed on purpose to allow the books to pop as they would in a print library as well. We can choose a book that we want to read from here by clicking on the book title. Once you click through here, we then get some information about the book that's highlighted here. That's the publisher information. We've got recommended titles. What that isn't doing is profiling the individual student, but is giving examples of books that other people have read who have also read this particular title. And then down towards the bottom here, We have the accelerated reader information about this particular title, and we have additional details that have been provided by the publisher. What you'll notice is that some of these are underlined in blue. The reason they're underlined in blue is it allows us to click on that particular option, and it brings up a list, a new list of books. So we clicked on fantasy fiction, and we've got a new list here displaying 95 books that have got fantasy fiction as one of the categories assigned by the publisher. Once again, Harry Potter appears towards the top of the list here. We also have the ability to search for books. You can search by author or by publisher. The way that this is best used is by using a keyword. So instead of typing J.K. Rowling, for example, we would just type the word Rowling. And as you can see, we get two options that pop up underneath, which is the reason why we suggest you use it as a keyword search rather than typing J.K. Rowling. As you can see, it's got J.K. Rowling as one example, and then Rowling, J.K. So if we just choose Rowling and click enter, it will bring up a list of everything that has Rowling appear within either the title or the author. So it's a much easier way of being able to search for books. You can also do title searches. So we can search for Romeo here. And again, if we hit enter, just as we type Romeo, a new list of books appears for us to borrow. If a student looks for a book that isn't available in the ePlatform 1 catalogue, but is available in the ePlatform online shop, they have the ability to request a title. And by requesting a title, it sends a note through to you as the administrator and says that this student is interested in you adding this book. In this case, the book was available, so I've clicked on the title and it's now brought us to the page where we can borrow the book. I've been prompted to sign in. Each student will be given their own unique login, and that's something that's controlled by you in the school. We do support single sign-on, and we support CSV upload as well as self-registration. The reason each student has their own username and password will become apparent as we start looking into the book, but there are a few reasons why. One of those is that students will be able to borrow books both via the app and via the website that we're looking at here, and be able to move between the two without losing their place. But also each login entitles a user to have two concurrent loans. So if you've got lots of people sharing logins, then not having the number of loans available to support the number of people perhaps sharing a username will make it difficult for people to be able to borrow the books that they want to read. Having logged in, we now get presented with a little bit more information. The look inside feature pops up, which is something we actively encourage new schools to use as a way to give their students the ability to preview the book before they commit to borrowing it. And there's a couple of reasons why there. The primary reason is that we see in the initial launch phase with new schools that children get really excited that they've got a lot of books that they can borrow. They will click borrow on the book, and the book gets returned within a couple of minutes because they've decided that they actually don't want to read that book. It's all well and good getting interaction, but actually what that does is it mirrors the actual true loan statistics, which you'll be able to see from the reporting suite that's built into ePlatform. There's also a big case here for protecting loan credits, which within ePlatform 1 isn't something that schools need to be overly aware of. But what it basically means is that when an ebook is purchased, it comes with preset conditions from the publisher. That means after a certain number of borrows or after a certain time period, the book does actually expire and needs to be replaced at full cost. And so we do that process on behalf of schools who join our ePlatform 1 membership. But if you did choose to buy any individual books, private books from our online shop, then you would need to be aware that the books will more often than not come with those publisher set criteria. And so what we want to try to do is limit the number of instances where children click borrow, don't intend to read the book and then return it within a few moments, because that then uses up one of those precious borrower credits. And depending on the book title or the publisher, the prices range. And so that's something that we actively encourage you to use. Once we've decided that this is what we want to read, we can click on the borrow, and within a few moments, that book now becomes on loan to me. I'm going to go and read the book, and what that does is it launches the page here for us, and as you've seen, it automatically will pop up with what we call our settings wizard. And essentially what this does is it takes us through a series of screen prompts to allow us to choose our own customized settings. This is another reason why each student is assigned their own username and password, because the reading settings here that we're going to be choosing are likely to be supporting students that suffer with things like dyslexia or general reading difficulties. And so once we've made these changes, every book that we borrow will have these settings automatically applied to them. So the first option here is to choose the background color. So we can click on the options, and as you'll see on the screen, the colors change. So you get a preview of the changes before you click on next. So let's say we choose blue as the background color. We then get to choose the font style. And so we may choose this particular style as the preference for us. We then have the ability to choose the text size, and finally the line spacing. Once we've clicked done, as I said, that's those settings now remembered for every book that we borrow hereafter. If we wanted to change any of the settings individually, we can click on the option here, and then we can start to scroll through the different font types. We can choose to relaunch the wizard if we wanted to, or we can just go to changing the color schemes or the spacing options here. I will currently reset that to the default. One other thing that's worth highlighting is the night reading setting here, particularly encouraged for students that enjoy reading on their device before they go to bed in the evening. It just dims the blue light in the background, and it gives them the ability to read the book and not have as much trouble falling asleep if they're using their device later into the evening. We can click on the side of the pages here to move through the page. With the app, you flick or touch the side of the page to move through. We've also got a table of contents in the corner up here as well, which allows us to jump to a new page. In this case, it's a new scene. And from here, we can read the book. Within the book here, you do have some useful tools. We can highlight individual words and paragraphs. In this case, we're looking at nature. We can click define and get a dictionary definition. So I'll just reduce that down to just nature. And we get a dictionary definition here. We get related words, synonyms, if you will, and we can see what they are here. And we also have the ability for the word to be played out loud. So it's great for students who perhaps don't have English as their primary language, or for students that just require a little bit of support with more difficult words for them. We also have the ability to highlight paragraphs. And this is particularly important for students who are perhaps doing GCSE set texts. Because what we can now do is we can create a highlight or a note, and we can save our notes. So I'll just do a quick note here. We can choose the color that we want to use and click save. We can then click on the contents option here, and you can see a list of notes that have been created. And so this is my latest note, and these here are showing my previous notes that I've created in this book as well. So what's important to note there is not only can you make notes, but every time you borrow the book, the notes that you've made will be available to you within the book here as well. We'll click back out of the book here now. We've jumped automatically to our loans page. As I mentioned before, you can have 2 books on Borrow at the same time. So where a lot of schools use both the ebook and the audiobook option, it's quite nice for students to be reading the ebook version whilst listening to the audiobook version. Or if you're an avid reader, you might be keen enough to have two ebooks that you're reading at the same time. It doesn't happen all that often, but it's an option. But the primary reason that's, children can borrow two books is to have the ebook and the audiobook version together. It's worth noting here that if we look at the account settings here, we can go to My Notes and Highlights, and there will be a list of all of the notes and highlights that you've created in each book. You can export the notes and highlights, which is great for revision. You can save that in a text or a PDF file, and you can download that for future reference. One thing I didn't mention when we were looking at the browse page before is that we have the ability to save books for later. And so if we're looking for a book that's currently unavailable, we have the ability to reserve the book. So where this borrow button would be, it would be replaced with the ability to reserve the title. Or we can click on this save for later button in the top corner here. And what that does is it creates a space where we have all of our saved books in one area. And so as we're scrolling down through the page, you can very quickly see whether books are currently available for borrow. And if a book is, all my books are available to borrow, but it would tell you if the book is currently unavailable also. And so once you finish reading the book that you're currently reading, you can jump to your saved page and you can go and find the next book that you want to read. This is a great way of being able to launch ePlatform, is to encourage the students to first log into ePlatform, use the browse pages to find books that they'd like to read, and then create a saved list of books to borrow at some point. And so from here, you can interact with the book. You can click on the title to then go and borrow the book, which just makes it nice and simple for them to be able to go to encourage to continue reading. Where I mentioned before that students have the ability to request titles, they can see up here in their title request section if a book has been accepted or declined by the administrator within the school. If it's been accepted, they have the ability to then go and find the book and borrow it. But if it's been declined, obviously they'll have a notification that tells them that the book is currently not going to be added by you as the administrator. Within the ePlatform One membership, we do add new books each month. Somewhere between 10 and 15 ebooks and 10 to 15 audiobooks get added by us each month. And so there's no reason why you can't ask for us to consider including the requested titles as part of those changes. But as ePlatform One is a shared collection, it does mean that any books that we do add to the collection will automatically become available to all subscribing secondary or primary schools. And so we need to make sure that the book is going to be a popular book and will be in demand, rather than it being a more personal book for an individual student. So there's no guarantee that we'll add the book, but we'll always consider adding the book if there's enough demand for that particular title. Thank you for joining today's session. That brings us to a conclusion of a student's eye view of interacting with ePlatform. If you're interested in finding out more about the administration side of ePlatform, please look at part 2, where we take a look at the shop and the admin settings.